right. Alrighty, let's, you guys ready, Kevin? Okay. Call the Board of Public Works and Capital Assets to order. Roll call.
Gill's here.
Coleman here.
Guzikowski here.
Richards here.
Sigali here.
Stupid here.
Approval of and then approval of minutes from 4/13/2021.
Those are extensive minutes, by the way. Who took those? Max, did you do that?
No, that was Josh.
Josh?
Yeah.
Josh needs to be a little more
Little
summary.
Okay. I can give him.
They were hard to get through.
I can give him the feedback.
But, I mean, extensive.
But appreciated.
Yeah.
Especially for the newbies that don't understand it all yet. So, so approval of minutes for 4/13/21.
Gill second.
Roll call.
Gill, aye. Sorry.
Aye.
Guzikowski abstains.
Richards, aye.
Sigali, aye.
Stupid, aye.
Alrighty, number 4, review of,
Question.
yes, sir.
I think now that we're back to full force here, right? Fred, I don't believe you can vote unless one of us doesn't, right?
It's, I'm here but I can't vote on any capital improvements.
Plus, I wasn't here
Anything-
last meeting, so that's why Fred was voting on that.
So anything that deals with money, I can't vote on. Unless Dale stays home or takes a trip up north and never comes back.
Alrighty. Alright, informational review of Common Council actions.
So Max Kagan, Assistant City Administrator. There were no items on the past 2 Common Council agendas related to the Board of Public Works and Capital Assets.
Thank you, Max. Alrighty, number 5, motion to approve the award of the work of to Grafe in the amount of $73,500 for design services in conjunction with Drexel Avenue Streetscape. Is this Doug?
Sure.
All right.
Thank you. Good morning. Doug Seymour, Director of Community Development. And this morning, we're going to be asking you to authorize staff to enter an agreement with Grafe for streetscape design services in conjunction with the Drexel Avenue corridor. Drexel Avenue corridor obviously has seen a number of investments over the past years, including the interchange itself and certainly bookended it by Drexel Town Square on the east and by the Creekside Crossing Marketplace, IKEA on the west. And really, as Drexel Avenue has increased in significance as really the main gateway to the city, the strategic plan and staffs and the council and all the stakeholders participation in that has identified that that's a corridor that probably needs to be addressed in terms of wayfinding, in terms of identity, in terms of aesthetics, as that's going to be the first exposure to the city of Oak Creek for many, many people who otherwise probably would never have, for instance, they go to IKEA and, they never have a reason to turn left. They just go in IKEA and leave. We don't obviously want that. We want them to take advantage of everything the city has to offer, and that includes Drexel Town Square. That includes the Highgate development on the east side of the freeway. It includes some of the newer things coming to the Creekside Crossing Marketplace, like the Homewood Suites and the Conference Center, and like some of the additional retail that's going to be taking place there. So that being said, the strategic plan identified a need to really dress up that corridor, and as such, staff let out requests for proposals for a streetscape design for Drexel Avenue, roughly from IKEA Way to Howell Avenue, about 1.5 miles. And really there was a little bit of a sense of urgency in the fact that we were very fortuitous and that engineering applied for and received some grant funding for a pavement rehabilitation for the stretch of of Drexel Avenue between Howell Avenue and 13th Street, Mike. So we wanted to make sure that we take advantage of that opportunity to design in streetscape elements where possible and make sure we just didn't miss an opportunity to take advantage of this window of construction to develop that corridor into a streetscape and a complete street, if you will, that we could obviously be proud of and would be more indicative of the city of Oak Creek, in this decade, as opposed to just, leaving it go to its individual wants, if you will. I mean, for instance, there's a lot of properties, a lot of stakeholders along that corridor, and it's hopeful that we can kind of coordinate some meaningful landscape, some meaningful streetscape to really tie it all together. And so I think that's what the plan always was. Now, had 5 responses, and 5 really good responses, and ranging in price from, I think, from just under $50,000 all the way up to $95,000. In staff's review of those proposals, we looked at, familiarity with the city, innovation, or demonstrated innovation in past projects, the familiarity with the regulatory environment, and based on all those, and I can go into more details and more of our thought process if need be, but staff felt that Grafe offered the best value in the sense that they have been working with the city on both Drexel Town Square and the Creekside Crossing Marketplace on either end of the corridor. They certainly have a lot of really high profile projects in Milwaukee, but one project in particular, which I thought was a really good metric for the Drexel Avenue corridor, was the work they did in Muskego on the Janesville Road corridor. If you've ever been out there, personally, I think they did a really great job. It's more than just putting up a few plants, and it's got some hardscape, it's got some signage, it's got some, it really kind of has transformed that identity into something a little bit more cutting edge. I was really impressed with that. And I think that really kind of demonstrates their ability to turn what could be a rather mundane corridor into something that's pretty special. So staff is prepared to recommend to the board to go with Grafe in the amount of $73,500. The financial impact is laid out in your packet. $65,000 was budgeted as part of the capital improvements plan. The additional funding would come out of potentially either one of several adjacent TIF districts or the Economic Development Fund. Be happy to answer any questions or comments.
Yeah, I have a question. Do we really have an idea what this change will be like? I see a bunch of pictures and comments, but I really don't see what it's going to look like for $75,000.
I guess that's the plan. We're engaging them to design that. While we would obviously like to have them give us a glimpse of what that would look like as part of their RFP response, the project is to design that, what it would look like. So, that's not unheard of that you wouldn't, obviously, there's a process involved before you can achieve that design, which involves all the stakeholders, including the public, including the city, including the businesses. So, I'm confident that process will yield exactly what you're looking for, Fred, is, at the end of the day, we'll have a plan that says this is what you should design, this is what you should construct, and, and kind of build into the overall design for the corridor and the pavement rehabilitation.
I think it's just a little vague. They give you a bunch of colored pictures and say this is what it's going to look like.
Well, but it's not though. The work is designing coming up with a plan and coming up with a design. It's not. We don't have a plan on the shelf and saying build this. It's coming up with that plan for a future award. You're not actually awarding the work. You're awarding the design.
Yeah. Right. And I think I agree with you that what they did in Muskego at Janesville Road is kind of just speaks, volumes for what could be, along on Drexel. So
I guess I would turn around and opine that the package they put together was probably $73,000 worth. So if the final result is anywhere near their marketing of what they put together here, it's a winner. I was a little concerned about the money differences, but then when I look at the evaluation, Grafe blew away, the reviewers of the package, so it wasn't even close. Grafe was the clear winner in this, so nobody's got any problems with that, I'll make the,
And then maybe if I can just interject one more thing, a very important aspect, which I really didn't hit upon, has always been how we potentially treat the railroad overpass. And I think that Grafe, among the 5 respondents, was very specific in some of the attention they paid to that, and bringing on a lighting designer, for example, that has done overpasses and railroad overpasses in the past, just to give us kind of a glimpse of what might be in store for some ways of doing that. I didn't see that come out of any other respondent. So that was another thing that, again, personally, I thought Grafe brought to the table that maybe some of the others didn't.
lighting package was nice.
Very impressive team they've projected to work with us, to be perfectly honest. That's a portfolio, so. That's what the city. I did have one question that came to me, and I always thought this was important in the overall spectrum of things, to make sure the on and off ramps, if we have any impact, or if we can have impact from north and southbound I-94, are important, I think, in the overall scheme of things. So I'm not sure if DOT cooperates in that regard or not, if that could be encompassed in this plan or not, but.
The answer is yes and maybe.
Well, just, I mean, I just prefer, it's important, I believe, to have right on the, the second you're off the freeway.
So Drexel Avenue obviously is a city street, and we control the jurisdiction of that, with the exception of the area immediately adjacent to the interchange. The state does maintain some control over that in terms of what you can place within the right of way. I would hope that we've developed a relationship with the state that we could propose something that would satisfy the requirements, but at the same time provide the kind of that wayfinding that we were talking about.
Because I mean, you have the locals. I mean, they know, but you're also trying to entertain folks from outside.
Right.
I mean, it meets the whole tourism thing. It meets everything we're trying to do as a city in terms of a place, placemaking, or is the term.
Well, it's definitely something in my mind that that's going to be an area of emphasis as to what we can get. I don't want to say get away with. But what
I mean, you come off those off ramps, you come up the hill, and you want to have an impact at that intersection. So that's all I want to say. And I'm looking forward. I can't believe actually 73,000 given the team that's in place here. That seems to be a bargain, to be perfectly honest. Even though it's in the middle of the pack in terms of bid prices, I can't imagine what 50,000 would have bought us. But this seems to be an impressive package.
One other thing on that, I think the outline or the scope of it went from Howell to IKEA. And I'm just wondering, should it go all the way to 27th Street?
Yeah, I think that was consideration. I think go to 27th Street. I mean, for those of you who aren't aware, Northwest Mutual owns 120 acres beyond what they did for IKEA along 27th Street. And they are in some early planning efforts along with what to do with that, and specifically the corner. So yes, I agree. I mean, I wouldn't want to have have a very distinct and separate streetscape up to IKEA and then have something different up to 27th Street.
Right.
So I think we'll probably carry that through. And they'll certainly be a part of that, being a major landowner along the corridor.
I think, they're obviously going to make a major investment there, and Rinka's Rinka, so he's not going to do something that's going to clash with what's already in place, I'd hope, but it'd be handy to coordinate with them, but I guess that's their call, so.
Mike, any questions or comments? Rob? Right, any other questions? Motion then?
Richards will make a motion to approve line number 5 to Grafe for $73,500 for design services in conjunction with the Drexel Avenue Streetscape project.
Segale seconds.
Roll call?
Gale, aye.
Coleman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Segale, aye.
All righty, number 6, motion to approve a project payment for sanitary rehab project 21105 in the amount of $76,000.
This is project grade number 1 for our sanitary rehab project. Done. They'll come back.
Any comments or questions, anyone? No. By me. No questions, motion.
Gail, move to approve the project payment for sanitary rehabilitation project 21105 in the amount of $76,152.80.
Richards will second.
Roll call.
Gail, aye.
Showman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Scully, aye.
All right. Number 7, motion to approve project payment for Weatherly Drive water main extension.
Yes, this is a water main loop on Weatherly. This represents project payment number 2 on the project. Currently, the project is completed in the standpoint that the water main is online and is being used. Restoration is yet to come. They still need to work on that over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, this is project payment number 2 in the amount of $46,927.02.
Thank you. Questions or comments? On motion.
Scully will move to approve the progress payment of $46,927.02 for the Weatherly Drive water extension.
Gail, a second.
Roll call.
Gail, aye.
Showman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Scully, aye.
All right, number 8, motion to approve utility vouchers for payment. Any comments or questions here? Motion.
Gail, move to approve utility vouchers for payment.
Richards will second.
Roll call.
Gail, aye.
Showman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Scully, aye.
And we have an informational review utility investments. Is that you?
Correct, yeah, the same sort of status report that we see every month. The only thing that I'd point out on here is the interest rate listed, the 0.06 is last month's interest rate. We haven't gotten the update from LGIP, but don't expect it to be much of a great change, so
Okay.
still representative.
Any questions or comments? All right, thank you. Alrighty. Number 10, informational.
Well, on the administrative reports, the only thing I'd highlight, there isn't a whole lot. Administration is about the same. Engineering, there's quite a few projects that are going on. On distribution, we did have 2 sort of unique water main breaks this past month. One on Fitzsimmons, unique in the sense that the leak was very close to a bell. So when we went down to dig on it, we expected a normal repair. That wasn't something we could accomplish in that evening, so we had to halt and come back the next day and cut out a larger section of pipe. We did cut out a section of pipe originally. We needed to cut out a larger section in order to align the pipes and get that put together. But what's unique about it is that this is the second break we've had on Fitzsimmons that was almost identical with a hole very close to a bell, which makes it very hard to repair. But it's just kind of unusual there. So we're looking into the past construction. I don't have the construction year. 76. to see if perhaps the baggie that was put over the main was not covering that joint area, which would allow corrosion to occur at that joint. So to see if that's something we need to predict more on Fitzsimmons or perhaps others in that era. The second one was on Ross and the second break up by Cousins. That one was, it was large, quite a bit of water that came out. There was actually 3 holes, large holes came off of that main. But what we found in doing so, we isolated that section of main and then started getting people up on Howell Avenue calling about reduced water pressure. And we thought, well, boy, that's not possible unless there's a closed valve on Howell, which is not uncommon to happen. As we exercise valves or as we do construction projects, there is a possibility a valve could get closed. We were confident that there was not a valve closed, but we went up and checked every valve, and every valve was open. We started to isolate sections to determine where this could have occurred. And what happened was, I'd say up north of Ross End Avenue on the east side of Howell, kind of by the old bar that was there, there's a butterfly valve. That valve operated perfectly from stop to stop, except the gearbox was broken on the inside and the valve was closed. It wasn't actually operating the valve. So for some time now, we don't know how long, that valve has been stuck in the closed position, which is why when we isolated the other feed going up there, that happened. We dug that valve up yesterday, pulled it apart, found a broken piece and have a new piece on order. We're going to institute a program of isolating sections of main to try and locate these before they become a problem, so to speak. We're also looking at, as we did before, an exercise of if you take one main out of service, how many residents do you take out? And we've corrected a lot of those areas a couple of years ago. We're now going to look at if you take 2 mains out of service, how many people do you affect? To just develop a focus area or a prioritization area for those future mains. So that was kind of interesting on those breaks.
I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Ross and Avenue break. 3 holes at once or 3
Yeah,
holes?
3 holes at once, yeah.
Yeah?
They were all right in the same area. Corroded to the point where there's very little metal left on the main, and I think they were corroding at the same rate, basically. Just kind of happened at the same time.
Pressure surge there or something?
Yeah,
Popped off?
yeah. So towards the end of that report, Darren Allard, as the chair of the Wisconsin Water Association Distribution Committee, put together and moderated a lead lateral inventory. He was asked to do that on kind of short order, so he got his team from the rest of the committee together. That went off really, really well. Very good presentation there. Along the same veins on the plant report, Mike Roby is the chair of the Treatment Operations Committee. He has routinely put on for the last quite a few years now treatment operations seminar. Typically is held at the community center and actually Pat Francis started that when Oak Creek started planning that. We held that here locally. There aren't a lot of education opportunities in the south end of the state, so that was one he thought would be a good fill, and it would be nice to have it here. This was done as last year was done virtual. Mike did a great job with that presentation. A lot of really good speakers there. And lastly, for myself, I've been asked by the Partnership for Safe Water to put together a team to review the Anne Arundel County Distribution System Optimization Report. That distribution system, they're south end of Baltimore, Annapolis, that's kind of where they're at. They're huge, so really kind of interested. We haven't gotten into that too much. I've also been asked to be on the Distribution System Optimization Excellence Award Criteria Development Team. So we're putting together that award. It's similar to what we have in treatment. That's always been well established. This is relatively new. We haven't gotten to the excellence criteria yet. They've asked me to be on that team as well. So that's a few things going on by us.
Good.
A number. Start in administrative.
Doug, can you make sure
Your mic is on.
mic is close to you?
Hello.
It's not picking you up very well for some reason.
Hello.
There you go. Look at that.
Just get a hammer. As far as gallons, again, it seems like the industrial is still We Energies is pulling all the weight.
It is We Energies, and that's going to carry through because this is a year-to-date number. We feel like that's going to carry through even if they start making changes here soon, but they're still using quite a bit of water.
How soon on the Centennial Sanitary Sewer? Do we expect a response back from DNR work on their proposal from Foth?
We're just getting that completed and off to them. It could be a month before we see something back. We have had initial conversations with them and they seem interested. I know Phil's looked at it. He seems interested in it as well. Thinks what's being done is a good action. I'm not really sure. Could be about a month.
We got any concerns about that area is so, unstable? Sometimes I'm concerned that we're going to have some sort of failures over there if we got a bad rainstorm or something.
Yeah, we've been watching it. We think it's a slow burn. We think this has been going on for a while, so we don't think it's imminent. At least we're hopeful.
We worried about this when the property for the fire station was donated to the city. So we've been aware that this is going to be a problem.
Yes.
And Midwest Meter had turned around and done in-place meter testing in a couple different spots. And I know someplace in one of these reports, it turned around and said that we replaced one of them. Was that a result of our testing that we had a failure or something?
No, we do have Midwest Meter go out and test our large meters on an annual basis. They do a couple of trips to come in and do that. But in the case of the Duane Court meter for Caledonia, we replaced that partly due to age, partly because Caledonia was looking for more data to come out of that meter so they can help monitor their own system. Right now, we have data coming out of it. They tried to piggyback onto our data and it didn't work for them very well. So we said we can get a different meter that can provide them that independent data as well.
So as a result of the testing, did everything look okay? I mean, not that we've got customers complaining that we're overcharging.
Nope. And all of or I should say most of our large meters are wholesale meters, and meters at the plant is largely what Midwest is doing for us. So Caledonia, Franklin, and at the plant. We do have a few problems with our raw water meter at the treatment plant. This last month, we noticed a great discrepancy. Now, we did have our west meter replaced at the plant, so that we know that's more accurate now. We've historically had problems with our raw water meter. Midwest came in, they're scheduled to come back and do another testing on that. So we're still working on that meter.
Appears as though Roby and Company had a party on April 7th. They shut down the plant.
Yes.
And the coordination there had to be outstanding amongst the group to turn around and make all that happen. You owe them donuts.
Yeah, we were really, really pleased. They shut it down in part to replace the west meter, but also to inspect the clear well underneath the pumps and get the two contractors coordinated so we could get that done at the same time, get our storage coordinated. We made sure there was no flushing going on, things like that. Yeah, it was quite an effort. And like Mike said, you can finally have a beer and get a little sleep after, a week or so of stressing over it. So,
Like, that's a rare event to shut the plant down.
it is a rare event, yeah, especially for that long. We can shut it down for an hour or two if we're doing some type of short inspection, shore well inspection, something like that. But this was down for over 8 hours, and yeah, it's a big deal, and it definitely makes everybody nervous.
Well, I mean, that's some of our upcoming project of some sort, storage, all those kind of. You got to have water somewhere.
Yes.
If you got the plant shut down.
Yeah. Yeah, and typically we're coordinating with Franklin as a large user that way to make sure that their storage is full. They're just aware of what we're doing.
Communicate with We Energies on that they or don't they have a choice to curtail their use?
They typically don't, but we have on some events. Normally, I would say we don't because they're more of a base flow, and so that's a little bit more predictable for us.
Good job, tell the guys.
Good job. Other questions or comments?
Thanks, Mike. That's a good format.
Yes.
Does that work for you, Dale?
Alrighty. Number 11, consider a motion to approve revised process for approving regulatory versus warning traffic and
safety requests. That might. Oh,
Morning, sir.
Am I on? Okay. So, 2 meetings ago, there was a fairly lengthy discussion on the traffic and safety items, how those are going to be handled coming through this group. As everyone's aware that was one of the duties from the old Traffic and Safety Committee. And so basically there was what I got, I was not at that meeting that attended, but looked like there was a pretty good understanding of how these requests for traffic safety items were going to be fielded by staff, communicated to adjacent properties and the aldermen, and comments received, and then brought to the board. So, and we do have some items that we expect will be on the next month's meeting. But in that discussion, then we thought that we would come with one further refinement for the board's consideration, trying to streamline that process a little more. And that has to do with regulatory sign requests versus warning sign requests. So, in the documentation I provided here, there's the definition of those two types of sign. Regulatory signs are those that give notice to road users of traffic laws or regulations with violators subject to traffic citations. Warning signs are those that call attention to unexpected conditions on or adjacent to roadways open to public travel and to situations that might not be readily apparent to road users. So, the suggestion here is that the warning signs be handled by staff and not necessarily have to come through this group. And that is just so that there's not just an overabundance of sign requests and the time involved in processing those. So, warning signs could be something as simple as a duck crossing sign. We have one in the queue. And so things like that, we thought maybe this group doesn't need to see those. But, that's certainly not our call. Others, maybe a pedestrian crossing sign. If you got a mid-block with a crosswalk crossing, generally a good idea to have a pedestrian crossing sign that accompanies that. So those are the types of things that we're looking at here. So we did create a document called Traffic and Safety Sign Request Guidelines that we've included with the report here, and was just wondering if there would be any real consideration of this, or if there's any questions we can answer. But basically, if it's a regulatory sign request, those would follow the procedure that we talked about at that previous meeting. We vet it with the PD staff, engineering, and we send the notices out, gather comments, and then we come in and have it before this committee. If it's a warning sign, we look at the warrants based on the MUTCD and the other tools we have at our disposal, and then we would just respond with to the requester. If it's a no, then that's the request. If they don't accept the no, they still have the option of pushing it forward and having it before the board here. So we're hoping that is kind of a way to streamline this process, and I guess we just like to see how the board feels on that.
Thanks, Mike. Pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah. It took me 12 years to realize we actually had a formal stop sign request process, but it's first I've heard of it. So.
Stop signs are kind of the special case, and there was a process that was established with the old Traffic and Safety Committee that if someone's asking for a stop sign, here's the form, send it along, and then we look at it.
Yeah.
And because really stop sign warrants are not always met. And when I say that, I mean probably less than half the time. And so the point is, sometimes it's very easy to ask for a stop sign and not understand why it really would be needed or not. So
I like the way you broke this out, Mike, and especially in terms of like the warning stuff. You hear stuff from neighborhoods that's, kind of emotional and reactionary, so it takes maybe the political situation out of it. So I appreciate that.
I agree. You guys agree?
Yeah.
I just have one question about stop signs. So what about the DOT when we get onto a main highway or a main street? Do we have to deal with the DOT at all?
if that is a road that is the state's jurisdiction or the county's jurisdiction, we have a lot of those main roads, highways through the city. That's really their call, and we trust that they are meeting all the warrants as they are designing their traffic signage.
I know from past experience that a few citizens are never happy unless they have a certain stop sign and you can explain it and go through all of that, and they're still a little concerned.
Right, yep, and we get involved with that conversation as needed. But again, if it is a state road, then, they kind of carry the water in that conversation.
Fred, I take it you got beat up a couple times in those meetings.
You're part of my problem, too.
I think Fred appreciates your pain. As long as Mike is up there on the engineering and inspections report there, the last item has got MMSD has offered to coordinate and fund the design and construction of 2 parking lots within Abendschein Park. Who turned around and pulled that hat trick? The mayor?
So that's Phil Beermeister, stormwater engineer. He was the primary contact, and honestly, I don't know if, I think that they probably approached him. MMSD is looking where they can to find opportunities to contain the stormwater runoff and reduce it at a slower rate.
Yeah, you're probably not aware. We're looking at a permanent outdoor structure at Abendschein.
Oh, okay.
So we're obviously looking for parking capacity there too, because it's only got served by the one lot, by the baseball diamond. So if we're going to have, more events at Abendschein, generally speaking, beer gardens and whatever, you need some more parking for the community. So that's part of the genesis of that. If you got anything else, Doug, about?
Need more parking at Lake Vista, Doug.
We do.
Well, actually, some of that.
We're looking at that on both fronts, but specifically on the Abendschein Park deal, you're correct. Actually, we're going out right now with kind of a scoping document on design services for some of the phased improvements to Abendschein Park, which will include, you're right, parking improvements, more of a permanent event space and structure, which would support a beer garden, but that's not the only reason for it. So that, we're out there probably in the not too near future, or not too far future, we'll be coming back to this board with a request for funding for those design services as well. And you're right, we need more parking at Lake Vista.
Well, I think that's kind of a big deal that you were able to land that with the sewage district to make that happen. That's good.
And they seem to be willing to throw their money at that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, this is actually a really good partnership, and kind of piggybacking on the really good work that Phil and Pete Wagner did earlier on, securing some coordinated grant funding from the district and the DNR for acquisition of that greenhouse property and incorporation of that into Abendschein Park.
Oh, cool. Very nice.
So, thank you.
Sure.
Do we have a motion for number 11 here?
All right, Gail will move to approve a revised process for approving regulatory versus warning, traffic, and safety sign requests.
Segale seconds.
Roll call.
Gale's aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richard's aye.
Segale aye.
Number 12, move consider a motion to convene in closed session pursuant Wisconsin State Statute Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub E, Sub G, to discuss the following: wholesale water contract.
Kelly moves.
Second. For roll call?
Gill, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Aye.
Staying in here, or are we?
In here? There?
Are
Relocating.
we moving, Kev? Yes. All right.
I gotta go bathroom break first. 5 seconds.
I just put up with you.
You're fishing
Yeah, they just
Pickle Lake
gotta-
up there, Dale?
Come back.
No.
All set? All right, thank you. All righty. Guzekowski makes a motion to reconvene in open session.
Second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Tolman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Kelly, aye.
And number 14, there is no motion. Adjournment.
The moves to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Tolman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Kelly, aye.
keep it on.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
All right, you guys.